Alex, bringing you one of many Force of Will deck profiles this week. Today I'm going to show you Fate Gold Bahamut, more popularly known as Bahamut Burn, although this version does vary a little bit from versions that you've probably seen in the past. Know that my Force of Will group is a more or less casual group, so when I take a hyper-competitive deck, I usually water it down a little bit so that everybody is kind of on the same page. But we start with Fate Gold. Fate Gold is the ruler. He can tap to search your main deck for a Dragon Resonator, put it in your hand, and he activates for banishing a Fire Resonator. And he turns into Bahamut, the Dragon King, who's 1,000 flying. When he enters the battlefield, he deals damage equal to the attack of the creature you banished. And then his other activate abilities, you can banish a Fire Resonator to give him Imperishable until end of turn. Imperishable means that instead of just going over here and dying and becoming a natural ruler when he dies, he flips back over to his ruler side so that you can reactivate him again. Very, very useful in certain situations. Alright, finally let's go into the creatures. The Resonators, I'm sorry. I run 4 copies of Hunter in Black Forest. He's a 3/3 swiftness for 1. Very tight control card. I run 4 Black Goat. Black Goat is a 2/2 for 1, but his ability is when he's in the graveyard, you can pay 1 and remove him from game to do 500 to target Resonator or player. So that's another 200 damage in on the opponent after he dies. I run 4 copies of Spawn of Blazer. Spawn of Blazer is a 4/4 flying dragon that you can banish to add 2 will of any color, but you can only use that will when trying to play dragons. I run 4 copies of Beowulf. Beowulf the Blazing Wolf would be replaced with Split Heaven and Earth in a competitive format, but as the deck stands, this is what I play. It's a 300/500 Resonator for 2 red, and his continuous ability is whenever he deals damage to something, he deals twice that much damage instead. That's Resonator or player or ruler. I run 2 copies of Little Dread. Little Dread is an 800/800 for 3, 2 of that being specific, and she has 2 awakening abilities. 1 awakening ability costs a fire, and when she enters, you give +600 plus -600 to a creature, so they lose a lot of defense and gain a lot of attack until end of turn. The other awakening costs 1 in a red, and it's an active treason effect. When it enters, choose a creature, it becomes yours until end of turn, it recovers, and it gains swiftness until end of turn. That way you can take control of somebody's thing and kill it, and attack with it. Blazer, I run 2 of. It's 3 red and 2. It is a 11/11 swiftness creature, and it has the continuous ability that whenever a card will be put into the graveyard from anywhere, it is removed from game instead. It also has the continuous ability that you can play this card from the remove from game zone. So basically, since the continuous rules are the way they are right now, whenever he would die, he gets removed from game, from where you can cast him again for 5 red. This is a powerhouse in red, and it is part of the reason that Susanoo from MOA exists. Finally, for Resonators, I run 2 copies of Guillory. Guillory is a 800/1200 flying swiftness dragon for 2 red and 4. He has a continuous ability that for every Firestone you have, he gets +2/+0. And he has another continuous ability that when he would die, go to the graveyard, you can banish 3 Firestones to return him to your field. This is a really good last turn effect because you You play him, you swing with him. If he dies, you bring him back, you swing with him again. His attack goes up it goes all the way up to 2,000 if you only have 6 Firestones, which is what you might have the turn you play him. And he's a really good finisher. So that's why I run 2. Moving into non-Resonators, I run 4 copies of Thunder. Anybody run a red deck without 4 copies of Thunder? Let me know in the comments. Bullet of Envy. Bullet of Envy is an addition for J/Resonator, so it can work on him as well. And the added J/Resonator gets +8/+8 as long as your life is lower than your opponent's. Funny story on that. One time somebody used the first lie to put their life just 100 above mine so that they could draw cards on that turn. The next turn, I put 2 Bullet of Envy on my Blazer and swung for exactly their life total. Bullet of Envy I like a lot because it puts you in a position to make up for lost time. I run 2 copies of Duel of Truth. Duel of Truth picks a J Resonator you control and a J Resonator your opponent controls, and they fight each other, doing their attack to each other. This is a really good card to get rid of wimpy things by targeting your J Ruler and targeting that Resonator. It's also a good way to get rid of big things that you think are going to cause you problems in the future, because you can basically add another attack to making sure that they get hit. This also gets rid of big Resonators. Crime and Punishment. Crime and Punishment targets a J Ruler or a Resonator, and it deals damage to that J/Resonator equal to the damage it dealt this turn. So you can use it on Little Red right after it uses its burn effect to make sure that Little Red doesn't stick around for the turn. You can use it on a creature that's just done a lot of damage, either to a creature you controlled because you blocked it or to you. It's just an overall good card. You might run 4 in a more competitive version of the build, but it also has the downside of the creature has to do damage first. So there's a lot of things there. 4 copies of Purifying Fire. Since this deck does not run Joan d'Arc, you get to choose one of these 2 abilities at sorcery speed. You can do 700 damage to a player, or you can do 1,000 damage to a human. If your opponent has a human that you absolutely have to kill, go ahead and use it there. The chances are you're just going to do 700 to your opponent. This deck's all about burning hot quickly. On that same note, we have Dragon King's Flame. It's 2 in a red. For an instant, it deals, in this deck, 800 damage. It deals 500 to target player or Resonator, but if you, 600 to target player or Resonator, but if your J Ruler is Fake Gold or Bahamut, it deals 800 instead. So, pretty decent stuff. For the purposes of this being a casual deck, like I said before, all my stones are just pure red stones. And the Bahamut builds of competitive fare don't stray too far from that. They might do a Little Red Pure Stone or maybe a Metis, but usually they stick pretty close to no double stones because they want Split Heaven and Earth to wreak havoc on their opponent while doing nothing to them. And speaking of Split Heaven and Earth, it is in this deck's sideboard. This deck's sideboard is not really complete, so I'm not going to show it off to you guys. Just know that it runs more burn and more control to keep your opponent's creatures off the board. That's it for this build. If you guys have any questions, comments, or whatever, please leave them in the comments below. And thank you for watching. Diesel out.